now gives me very great pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker for this conference. As co-founder and managing director, Zareh Nalbandian has led Animal Logic's development from a handful of gifted artists to a world leader in the to a world leader in visual effects, design, and animation. He brings to that leadership over 30 years' experience in filmmaking and a deep passion for Australian filmmaking. He's looking to extend that passion into the world of games. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for Mr. Zareh Nalbandian.
Thank you again, Simon. Thank you, Tom, for inviting me. Thank you all for coming. I feel really honoured to be here. I feel like an outsider. I'm from Sydney. I'm from the film industry and the television industry. The only real insight I have into games is watching my kids play. And occasionally they'll let me on the console leave the room because it's just too painful for them. But I do get great insights, and I get really inspired watching my kids play. But of course, Animal Logic is full of people like you guys who inspire me every day, and they do cross over in their personal lives. They may be working in the television or film industry, but actually they're just like you guys, every one of you. You just want to be entertained. They want to be entertained. They look for entertainment wherever they can find it. And they look for innovation. They look for ideas. They look to be surprised, and you know, they find those ideas, and they find that entertainment in all sorts of corners. So I think there's a lot of similarity between what we do in the film and TV business and what you do in the game business. In fact, I think we're one business, we're one industry, we're the entertainment industry, and more we're the digital entertainment industry. However, we're very different, but you know, still the same. And that's kind of what I want to explore today, the differences and the sameness. Because I do feel that we're on a rapidly advancing convergence of our industries, where we are going to be finding a lot of common ground, and I'd like to explore some of that common ground. I'm not going to propose that we're exactly the same, because we're talking about two different experiences, a passive experience and an active experience, a structured, more linear narrative in a film versus a more interactive narrative in a game. But nevertheless, the narrative is key. The characters, the stories, the unique ideas, the surprising visuals are all part of that experience. And so there is commonality there. But I think it takes different mindsets and different specialists and different arts to be able to really make each area work really well. I just crashed out my computer. So first, some background on Animal Logic. We design and produce visual effects and animation for television, the web, for cinema, and occasionally games. We've been around for 18 years, I hate to admit it. We started in around 1990. We're primarily based in Sydney. We have a staff of around 400. We probably will be sitting around 500 or 600 in the next 2 years. And we hope to keep that as a consistent staff because we hate the cyclical nature of our industry. We hate attracting talent, giving opportunities for talent, training talent, only to find that we don't have a project for them and they disperse, and we have to rebuild on the next project. We want to, and one of the things I'd like to talk about is how can we bring that training and talent development, talent retention together between our industries. Because at the end of the day, we want to reverse the brain drain, we want to reverse the outflow of talent from Australia and turn it into an inflow. And we find that every time we have a really exciting project, a really good prospect for talent, it's a magnet. It attracts people from all parts of the world. We had 22 people from 22 different countries working at Animal Logic during Happy Feet. You know, we had 300 people come into the country, and about 100 of them stayed. 200 had to leave. It would have been great if more of them could stay. So we were founded in 1990 with 10 employees and with a simple philosophy: do great work and good things will come. And that was pretty naive because we were 10 people who had no idea about business. I'd run a big corporation before, and I knew that I didn't want to do that. That was the one thing I did know. But I had no idea what it meant to be, you know, doing it on your own. I remember Chris Godfrey, who founded the company with me and is now a very established visual effects supervisor out on his own. He just supervised Baz Luhrmann's film Australia, which was a huge accomplishment for him. I remember we actually did a management buyout of a very early pioneering digital company And I remember we used my MasterCard to pay for the last bit of it because that's how we had to do it. And since then we learned all about, you know, what it meant to run a business. You know, a business with heavy capital investment in technology, which has got a very short shelf life. It's perishable. We learned how to nurture talent. We learned, you know, we did a lot of things wrong, a lot of things right. But the thing that we learned was it was about talent and relationships and being committed to quality and innovation, and always looking for challenge. I was reading an article which Ed Catmull wrote, who heads Pixar recently, and he said in the article he says that it's management's job to always be a little bit scared. If you're not a little bit scared, it means that you're doing more of the same. If you're doing more of the same, it means you're not innovating. If you're not innovating, then you're not surprising your audiences, and your audiences will punish you. So we've been scared for 18 years because every year there's another challenge, there's another risk in front of us. I remember when we took on Happy Feet with George Miller, I had calls from colleagues all around the world going, "You're crazy, you don't know what you're getting into, you're going to lose your company, you know, you won't make it through the first 6 to 12 months, you really don't know what you're doing." And you know what? We really didn't know what we were doing. But we worked it out as we went because there were talented, committed people in the company, and we wanted to be scared. We wanted to overcome that fear and do something really great and surprising, and I hope we did. We more recently have established a subset of the company, or a very important twin of the company, which we call Analogic Entertainment, which has been established to develop and produce content. And I just got to clarify, my language, develop means to develop an idea, and your language means to actually realize it. So if I get confused a little bit today, you'll know why. But it was to develop, was take ideas and to develop those ideas into things that we could make, and produce them, meaning that we would look for finance, we would control the creative, we would control the production, and get product to market, and obviously tap finance and distribution along the way. And we've been investing heavily in that business, and that is talk about being scared, that is a really scary business, because all you do is shovel money in for a very long period of time. And hope that something that you make is going to be very successful, so that some of the money comes back and you can do it all again. But you know, and that's the thing that is really lacking in Australia, is that kind of risk money, is that kind of passion and commitment to developing IP that we can own and exploit. And I think a lot of the game companies in Australia do it far better than the Australian film industry does. So this is not a reflection on the game business. But I think collectively we could all do better. But there isn't that kind of capital. We're a small population. We have a conservative investment community who don't value what we do at the level that counterparts do in the US, UK, and other parts of the world. And so very little of that investment happens. In the film world, it translates into a producer gets a first draft of a script. They have to put that into production because that's how they get their fee and that's how they pay their bills. So the first thing is good enough and it goes into production. In the US, they have the courage to throw that away and do it again, throw it away and do it again, until they've got a great story. Pixar is a fantastic example of that commitment to great story. I hope that by investing through what we do in Analogic in a contained way, that we can, up the stakes in terms of that creative value that we bring to our projects, so that the IP that we develop can be realized through film, television, and any media that's appropriate that's for it, which means games as well. And that we can speak to global audiences, that we can access global audiences through doing good financing and distribution partnerships, and that we can get brands out around the world, which are based out of Australia, but create popular culture around the world. We can make our computers work too. So, as a subset of Analogic Entertainment, again, we recently, this year, established Analogic Interactive, which is a very small, very young game development function that we established under